Thor's humbling journey in Jotunheim. In the icy, desolate expanse of Jotunheim, where snow blanketed the ground and jagged peaks scraped the heavens, Thor, the mighty god of thunder, set out on an extraordinary journey to prove his strength. Accompanied by Loki, the cunning trickster, and two mortal siblings, Thialfi and Röskva, Thor ventured into the frost-covered wilderness. Their goal was to reach Utgard, the stronghold of Utgard Loki, the enigmatic king of the giants, whose reputation for cleverness and power was whispered across the realms. Their journey began amidst a storm, as icy winds howled through the mountains and made even Thor's godly resilience falter. As night fell, they searched for shelter and stumbled upon what appeared to be an enormous hall. Seeking refuge, they rested there, only to discover at dawn that it was not a hall at all, but the gigantic glove of a sleeping giant named Skrymir. Despite his intimidating presence, Skrymir offered to guide them to Utgard. Thor, suspicious but unwilling to show weakness, accepted the giant's offer. Yet Skrymir soon proved to be more of a hindrance than a help. When they stopped to eat, Thor found that Skrymir had tied their provisions in a knot so complex that even his mighty strength could not undo it. As night fell again, Thor's anger reached its peak. While Skrymir slept soundly, his snores shaking the earth, Thor seized Mjolnir, his hammer, and struck the giant's head with all his strength. The blow, which could shatter mountains, seemed to have no effect. Skrymir awoke, rubbing his head, and casually remarked that he must have been hit by a falling twig. Enraged, Thor struck again, and then a third time, but each blow seemed to leave Skrymir completely unharmed. Weary and humiliated, Thor and his companions continued on their journey, finally arriving at the gates of Utgard. The stronghold was so immense that even Thor, accustomed to the grandeur of Asgard, felt small before its towering walls. Inside, they were greeted by Utgard Loki himself, a giant of imposing stature and an air of sly confidence. The first to step forward was Loki, eager to prove his cunning. Utgard Loki proposed a food-eating contest, and Loki, confident in his appetite, accepted the challenge. He was pitted against a being named Logi, and plates piled high with meat were placed before them. Next, Thialfi the swift mortal was challenged to a foot race against Hugi, a giant known for his unmatched speed. Thialfi ran with all the swiftness he could muster, his feet barely touching the ground, but Hugi easily outpaced him. Utgard Loki explained that Hugi was the personification of thought, which moved faster than any mortal or god could ever hope to match. Thor, his pride wounded by the failures of his companions, stepped forward to accept 3 challenges. For the first, Utgard Loki presented him with a massive drinking horn, declaring that anyone who could drain it in one draught would prove themselves truly mighty. Thor drank deeply, his strength evident in the way he gulped the liquid. But when he lowered the horn, it seemed barely emptier than before. Frustrated but determined, Thor demanded another challenge. This time, Utgard Loki brought forth a massive gray cat, challenging Thor to lift it off the ground. The hall erupted in laughter at Thor's apparent failure. Still unwilling to concede defeat, Thor accepted a final challenge, to wrestle an old crone named Ellie. At first, Thor scoffed at the frail-looking woman, confident that the contest would be an easy victory. But as they grappled, he realized that she was far stronger than she appeared. Despite his immense power, Thor found himself slowly pushed back, and eventually, Ellie brought him to his knees. Utgard Loki, seeing Thor's frustration, declared the contests over and invited the travelers to rest. Thor, seething with anger and humiliation, could barely sleep, his mind consumed with thoughts of vengeance and confusion at his uncharacteristic failures. As dawn broke, Utgard Loki approached Thor and his companions and offered them a parting feast. But before they departed, the giant king revealed the truth behind the contests. Loki's opponent, Logi, had been fire itself, a force that could devour anything. Thialfi's race had been against thought, which no mortal could hope to outrun. As for Thor's challenges, the drinking horn had been magically connected to the ocean, and Thor's efforts had unknowingly caused the tides to rise across the world. The gray cat he struggled to lift was none other than the Midgard serpent, Jormungandr, whose coils encircled the entire world. And the old crone Ellie, who had brought him to his knees, was old age itself, a force that no one, not even the gods, could overcome. Utgard Loki admitted that Thor's attempts, though appearing to fail, had been so extraordinary that they caused the giants to tremble with fear. Even the hammer blows Thor had delivered to Skrymir's head had been so powerful they shook the foundations of Jotunheim. Realizing he had been deceived, Thor's anger boiled over. He raised Mjolnir, his mighty hammer, intending to strike Utgard Loki down for his trickery. But before he could act, Utgard Loki and his entire fortress vanished into thin air, leaving Thor and his companions standing alone in the frozen wilderness. Though humbled by the experience, Thor learned a valuable lesson that even gods could be outwitted by cunning. With a mixture of frustration and resolve, he began the long journey back to Asgard, vowing to one day prove his might in a way no trickery could deny.